It's Drew Massey with Game Time Sports and Training, and we're going to talk about another basic fundamental human movement pattern, which is squatting. Basically, everybody should know how to squat. It's one of the developmental patterns as we develop our movement competency as we're growing up as children. It's basically we can't learn to walk or run or step or anything without learning how to get up from the crawl. And so you actually learn the squat from the ground up. So it's a basic fundamental human movement pattern, and you need to master a couple things first. Some of those things I think you need to master are plank, which is going to teach you how to keep that core nice and stiff, and then glute bridge, which is going to teach you how to use your hips to move from your hips and not move from your low back. The other thing is look at TRX or a suspension trainer like a RIP 60 or a TRX bodyweight squat, so that you understand you can unload yourself on a suspension trainer, so now your body doesn't have to deal with as much gravitational force, and you can really get a lot of mobility out of those. So you need to look at, plank, glute bridge, and probably some type of suspension trainer or an assisted squat before you move to the next progression, which is your bodyweight squat. So a lot of times bodyweight is a great place for people to start, especially if they have good movement patterns on those other things. So what we want to do, we want to stand basically about hip width apart. We like to tell people, keep your toes on train tracks, because we don't want to see a big out turn. That has its place in things like powerlifting or when you get to barbells and things like that. But for just our pure bodyweight stuff, let's try to get our toes on train tracks. We're going to keep our weight in our heels. We're going to push our chest forward, or with our athletes, we're going to say, hey, numbers up, all right? So we want to see what number you are. The other thing is you're going to need a little bit of a counterbalance. So we like to have our folks put hands out right there in front, and then what we want to do is we want to tell people, you want to sit back and down in that squat pattern. So we're going to push our hips back first, and then we're going to come down, keeping those numbers up. We want to keep our feet on the ground, our heels would stay on the ground, and to stand up, we want to drive our heels to China to stand up nice and strong. One of the two things that I see a lot of times is people will come up onto their toes, and it's maybe due to a lack of ankle mobility, but a lot of times it's just they don't know that they're doing it. So you want to tell them, hey, keep your heels on the ground. And the second thing that we see is at the top of the squat, for whatever reason, people won't finish at the top. So we like to tell people, hey, finish tall. So when we come down here, we don't want to end up right here. We want to end up as tall as we can, all right? So that's where you need to be in a bodyweight squat. So that's what your bodyweight squat should look like. Numbers up, arms out in front, push those hips back and down. Come all the way down as much as your mobility will let you, as long as your heels can stay down. Drive those feet to China, stand up nice and strong. If they're still not quite getting that back and down, you can use something like a bucket or a box, like a small box, a 12-inch box or something like that. This bucket's a little bit high, but we still can use this. We want to take that, and that's actually just going to give them basically a start and end point. So we want to stand right in front of our bucket, numbers up, arms out nice and straight. We're going to push those hips back and down. Those hips will hit that bucket, they'll touch it, and they'll go. Big difference between come down and crashing down onto the box and then going, all right? So you want to teach them touch and go. The last thing we'll talk about is knees. You'll see this a lot with your female athletes, or maybe your female clients, or maybe somebody coming off a knee injury, is those knees kind of want to, as they go down, they kind of come in. We want a cue to push those knees over those feet, all right? Not necessarily out, but something that helps us is, if you're going to squat in a phone booth, then your feet are going to be on the edge of the phone booth, and you want those knees to track and try to push those knees out against that phone booth. That kind of is a mental cue for some people to use so that they can really develop that nice squat pattern. And then from bodyweight squat, guys, you can go from there to a single kettlebell or dumbbell goblet squat. Then you can go to barbell front squats, double kettlebell front squats, back squats, or if you like to even do the overhead squats. But you need to develop those two fundamental squatting patterns first, which is the use of a suspension trainer or the use of that bodyweight squat before you move into trying to load those squat patterns up.